Ew.
We are live. Okay, so you can't see it in this light very well at all. Can
It's
you kind
purple.
of see?
Burgundy?
Thank you. It's purple. Yeah. So I did really dark purple on the top of my head and did like a gradient down to this bright purple back here.
Yeah.
You are the first person who's noticed without being told. Nobody at work noticed at all.
It's because you make it look natural.
I guess so. I guess I'm a natural purple. And
You are
I was
natural.
complaining to Sandy about it, and she was like, "They didn't notice when you dyed it blue either. You were complaining then too." And I was like, "Oh, okay, fine. They just don't care."
Naturals. Yeah.
So I'm like,
Oh, I
y'all.
should have brought her down. I finished up Chromium and
Hmm.
it looks adorable. They look adorable. It is clearly a cat person of multiple genders.
I have seen Chromium. I saw them on Instagram.
I did some more work after taking those pictures.
Oh, cool.
Tightened up the braids, made them look more braid-like. Fixed. So they've got reflections below and on either side, and one of the reflections was just wrong because her hair and her tail are going this way, so that they shouldn't even show up on this reflection.
Hmm.
So so I made that happen. It is now accurate. But what we're working on today is iron.
Neat.
I know, right? Are you saying that in Alucard's voice? Because we always do.
I sort of instinctively do. It's the only way I can say it anymore.
We
I
love
also
you, star.
so I have a coworker who's never seen that, except I may have made him watch it at some point, but he always says it in that exact same tone, and his like is not into anime, had no idea what I was talking about, and I was like,
Oh, honey. Are you sure?
very sure.
No, not you, him. Like, are you sure you've never seen this? Maybe you watched it in your sleep because you're channeling it.
Hard to say.
Right?
All right.
Okay, so hang on, before you move on.
Yes.
Um, I had too much pulling back this way. I'm quite pleased with the ironmongery over here, but it was too weak right here, so I threw in the Eiffel Tower like you do.
Mm-hmm.
But now the Eiffel Tower needs to be resting on something. In front of it will be these power towers, but something of steel solidity needs to exist behind the power towers right here. Do you have any notions? Iron, steel, something large though, because I'll give him like maybe a pot, a pan, other iron things that are smaller in more of a foreground thing, but the stuff on his back is the big shit.
So then not an anvil, because that's too small. What?
It might work actually, because it's so iconic.
It is really iconic. It'd be easy to see it that size, because my other suggestion would be like a power hammer, but that's going to be hard to identify.
Yeah, because that could just look like a clamp
Mm-hmm.
at that size. But yeah, with that iconic shape, and I don't think I had plans. I know I had intentions for an anvil, but I didn't have a plan for it. Yeah, we'll just throw it right there on the back of his neck.
Sounds good to me.
We're already screwing around with scale a great deal, so that's
Yeah. No, are you really?
oh yeah, just a little bit. The dwarf with the world on his shoulders.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
He represents work.
Mm-hmm. I can see that.
And I think I might give him a hammer in his hand, something like that. Not sure.
I feel like he should have a hammer. That just feels right.
It does.
He can
And
hammer in the morning. He can hammer. Sorry.
All over this land, right? This land right here.
Yeah, Yeah, exactly. Hammer out danger, to hammer
Hammer
out warning.
But what about the love between his brothers and his sisters?
Not his department.
Oh, but they're all over this land. Okay.
Okay.
So we're gonna have boats sticking out of this bridge arch, and something sticking out. I think a crane sticking out here, holding a packing crate, and a truck, and some chains, and I think I just got, a plane. There's a plane in here somewhere. Planes,
should
trains,
also-
and automobiles.
I was gonna say you need a train in there somewhere.
Oh.
Oh wait, that's the train up there, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. Cool.
Wait, how do I? There we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a train by the city.
Is it deliberately a train with a German flag on it?
No, it is not. It was just I was trying to get gray up at the top and red down at the bottom because a lot of trains have that color scheme.
Well, if it's gray, it looks kind of black on my screen, so that's why I thought it. But if it's gray, it's not the German flag.
Oh, okay.
They're very, very particular about these things, the flag people.
Yeah. It's not meant to look flag-like. I didn't put an old-fashioned locomotive. I was awfully tempted, but I wanted it to look modern. Any hoozles. I can help you find the spot we're at, too.
I found it.
Did?
Grishnak dies and the horse jumps over them, but they're too crushed and too afraid to move.
That is exactly where we are, and I love you.
I love you too.
At
last. Some water first.
Drink.
Better. At last Mary stirred and whispered softly, "So far so good, but how are we to avoid being spitted?" The answer came almost immediately. The cries of Grishnak had aroused the orcs. From the yells and screeches that came from the knoll, the hobbits guessed that their disappearance had been discovered. Ugluk was probably knocking off a few more heads.
Yeah.
Then suddenly the answering cries of orc voices came from the right, outside the circle of watchfires, from the direction of the forests and the mountains. Mauher had apparently arrived and was attacking the besiegers. There was the sound of galloping horses. The riders were drawing in their ring close around the knoll, risking the orc arrows so as to prevent any sortie. Sortie? Well, a company rode off to deal with the newcomers. Suddenly, Merry and Pippin realized that without moving, they were now outside the circle. There was nothing between them and escape. Yes.
When we read this before, did you do accents? Did we do accents, or did we just do emotion?
I think we just did emotion. I don't think we did accents.
Do you want to continue doing accents, or do you want to just stick with emotion?
I mean, I'm fine with doing accents. I mean, I know I don't do all of them, but I feel like it's a pretty easy way to tell who's talking most of the time.
That's true. All right, carry on, darling.
Why, do you want to stop doing accents?
Nah.
Are you sure? You don't sound sure.
No, I was thinking about it. And no, I do not want to stop doing accents. I enjoy the accents. I was just being nostalgic for the first time we read it.
Well, I think it's good to revisit things in a way that's slightly new, because you can never recreate exactly what you had before.
Which these guys, the movie makers, should have realized when they were making The Hobbit. Thank you.
Yeah, everything new they brought in was terrible.
Everything old they tried to keep in was terrible. They should have tried to make something completely not divorced, but like independent. Yeah,
when I was saying new things they brought in, I meant things that weren't in the book.
Oh, I see. Yeah, no, every new, I have a rant about all of the elements that they tried to use to tie it to Lord of the Rings movies that were failures, that were just insulting. And frustrating.
Indeed.
Anyway, you can read my rant on my blog if you care to, but meanwhile...
There was nothing between them and escape.
Woohoo!
Now, said Mary, if only we had our legs and hands free, we might get away. But I can't touch the knots, and I can't bite them. This accent's all over the place. Maybe I should have stopped.
Dealer's choice, man.
No need to try, said Pippin. I was going to tell you, I've managed to free my hands. These loops are only left for show. You'd better have a bit of lembas first. He slipped the cords off his wrists and fished out a packet. The cakes were broken, but good, still in their leaf wrappings. The hobbits each ate 2 or 3 pieces. The taste brought back to them the memory of fair faces and laughter and wholesome food in quiet days now far away. For a while they ate thoughtfully, sitting in the dark, heedless of the cries and sounds of battle nearby. That is the most hobbity thing I've ever heard in my life. We're going to sit here and have a snack while there's a battle going on 50 feet away.
Well, priorities. Also, it occurred to me at some point, hobbits are really Taoist.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is the reality we're living in, and what we need right now is food. And we don't feel like living in some mythical future where we haven't eaten. Anyway, go ahead.
They're very Tao of poo.
Yes.
For a while they ate thoughtfully, sitting in the dark, heedless of the cries and sounds of battle nearby. Pippin was the first to come back to the present. And I've just realized this entire chapter is going to be Merry and Pippin talking, so I'm not going to do the accents unless the fancy strikes me.
Okay.
We must be off, he said. Half a moment. Grishnak's sword was lying close at hand, but it was too heavy and clumsy for him to use. So he crawled forward, and finding the body of the goblin, he drew from its sheath a long, sharp knife. With this, he quickly cut their bonds. He just robbed a body, no big deal.
Yeah, like you do.
Now for it, he said. When we've warmed up a bit, perhaps we shall be able to stand again and walk. But in any case, we had better start by crawling. They crawled. The turf was deep and yielding, and that helped them, but it seemed a long, slow business. They gave the watchfire a wide berth and wormed their way forward bit by bit until they came to the edge of the river, gurgling away in the black shadows under its steep banks. Then they looked back. The sounds had died away. Evidently, Mauhur and his lads had been killed or driven off. The riders had returned to their silent, ominous vigil. Huh?
Mauhur, you bitch. Very anticlimactic of you.
The reinforcements came. Oh, and it's a bad idea. It's a bad idea.
I've got a better idea. Oh, it's the same idea. It's the same idea. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. The riders had returned to their silent, ominous vigil. It would not last very much longer. Already the night was old. In the east, which had remained unclouded, the sky was beginning to grow pale. Like, what kind of psychological fucking warfare? You camp in a circle around your enemies, you wait until dawn, and in the middle of the night their allies attack, and you kill their allies, but you don't attack them.
Nope.
You just wait silently.
Yep.
Savage.
Like when you sit on the mountain all night the night before the battle and you bang on your shields and sing, "We're gonna cut your tonkers off."
Yeah, like that.
All right.
Let's see. We must get under cover, said Pippin, or we shall be seen. It will not be any comfort to us if these riders discover that we are not orcs after we are dead. He got up and stamped his feet. Oh, those cords have cut me like wires. But my feet are getting warm again. I could stagger on now. What about you, Mary? Mary got up. Yes, he said, I can manage it. Lembas does put heart into you. A more wholesome sort of feeling, too, than the heat of that orc draft. I wonder what it was made of. Better not to know, I expect. Let's get a drink of water to wash away the thought of it. Not here. The banks are too steep, said Pippin.
It just occurred to me. somewhere there's got to be a bartender that's come up that's a Tolkien head that has come up with something called the orc draft.
There must be.
Yeah.
You know, I'm trying to think what it was that they made it with in the movies. Wasn't it like really concentrated peach iced tea?
Yeah, or grape soda, one of those, but a concentrate,
Mm-hmm.
something
Because I was
really
thinking,
sticky.
yeah. If they used the peach iced tea, then I was thinking something with peach schnapps.
Right?
Like dark rum and peach schnapps. And oh God, this would be terrible, but a
Well, it's
mixture
supposed to
of
be gag, so yeah.
dark rum, peach schnapps, and fireball.
Oh my God, just like that. Yes. Yeah. It would totally make you gag, but warm you up in a
Yep.
hurry.
And I would mix it with like maybe a squirt of ginger ale or something just to give it a little bit more body so it wasn't purely alcohol. Because you couldn't take that as a shot. That'd be too much.
It would be way too much. But you could also throw in like put it in a glass that had a little bit of liquid smoke rubbed on the rim.
Congratulations. We've just made a really terrible cocktail.
Yeah. Orc draft, man.
Orc
How's that?
draft.
Somebody go make it. I
I'm
will not
honestly
drink
tempted.
it. It will make me throw up.
I mean, yes, again, orc draft. It's truly tempting.
You can get Pan-Galactic Gargle Blasters. You can get Romulan Ale.
No, you know what? Not ginger ale. You make a cup of hot coffee and you put the rum, the fireball, and the peach schnapps in the coffee. And then you put liquid smoke on the rim.
Okay, yes. Yes. Yes.
Ugh. One time I had a challenge in my team chat for everybody to come up with the worst drink they could make out of ingredients they had at home. And this was during the first part of quarantine when everybody was like down to really weird shit in their pantries because they couldn't go out. Man, some terrible drinks were invented that day. Thank God nobody actually drank them.
Somebody has to have had pickle juice in their fridge.
Mm-hmm. Somebody did, yeah. I think they had pickle juice and soy milk. It was bad. It was a bad time. I posted the challenge and everyone was like,
times it was the worst of times. Yeah, that's
yep.
Nothing to contrast with. It was just the worst of times.
Yes. Anyway, after that orc draft, let's get a drink of water to wash away the thought of it, which is also what you're going to want to do with that recipe we just made up. Instant coffee, by the way, not good coffee.
Yeah. Or burnt Starbucks coffee.
No, you know there's that thing where people take instant coffee and they like whip it into sort of a froth.
Yeah, I could see that.
Hazelnut instant coffee. Anyway, I'm just making this as much worse as I can think of. Moving on. Back to the river.
Supposed to make you stop eventually, not while you're trying to drink it.
You know, it's really unclear in the movie.
Why?
Not here. The banks are too steep, said Pippin. Forward now. They turned and walked side by side slowly along the line of the river. Behind them the light grew in the east. As they walked, they compared notes, talking lightly in hobbit fashion of the things that had happened since their capture. No listener would have guessed from their words that they had suffered cruelly and been in dire peril, going without hope towards torment and death, or that even now, as they knew well, they had little chance of ever finding friend or safety again. This is the British stiff upper lip moment.
It really is. And you love them for it!
You seem to have been doing well, Master Took, said Mary. You will get almost a chapter in old Bilbo's book if ever I get a chance to report to him. Good work, especially guessing that hairy villain's little game and playing up to him. But I wonder if anyone will ever pick up your trail and find that brooch. I should hate to lose mine, but I am afraid yours is gone for good. I shall have to brush up my toes if I am to get level with you. Indeed, Cousin Brandybuck is going in front now. This is where he comes in. I don't suppose you've much notion where we are, but I spent my time at Rivendell rather better. We are walking west along the Entwash. The butt end of the Misty Mountains is in front, and Fangorn Forest. Even as he spoke, the dark edge of the forest loomed up straight before them. Night seemed to have taken refuge under its great trees, creeping away from the coming dawn. "Lead on, Master Brandybuck," said Pippin, "or lead back. We have been warned against Fangorn, but one so knowing will not have forgotten that." "I have not," answered Mary, "but the forest seems better to me all the same than turning back in the middle of a battle. Into the middle of a battle. Yeah, no shit."
Right?
He led the way in, under the great branches of the trees. Old beyond guessing they seemed. Great trailing beards of lichen hung from them, blowing and swaying in the breeze. Out of the shadows the hobbits peeped, gazing back down the slope. Little furtive figures that in the dim light looked like elf children in the deeps of time, peering out of the wildwood in wonder at their first dawn. Far over the great river and the brown lands, leagues upon grey leagues away, the dawn came, red as flame. Loud rang the hunting horns to greet it. The riders of Rohan sprang suddenly to life. Horn answered horn again. Merry and Pippin heard, clear in the cold air, the neighing of war horses and the sudden singing of many men. The sun's limb was lifted, an arc of fire, above the margin of the world.
The singing. "We're gonna cut your tongue off."
I was picturing we get knocked down, but we get up again.
Again. Never gonna keep him down.
We had an orc drink. We had an elf drink.
Instead of Rohan, we're singing. Leave a comment below.
I was thinking we had an orc drink. We had an elf drink. We had a dwarf drink. We had a hobbit drink.
Oh, wait. Go this way. There we go.
Then with a great cry, the riders charged from the east. The red light gleamed on mail and spear. That's smart because they have the sun behind them.
Yep.
The orcs yelled and shot all the arrows that remained to them. The hobbits saw several horsemen fall, but their line held on up the hill and over it, and wheeled round and charged again. Most of the raiders that were left alive then broke and fled this way and that, pursued one by one to the death. But one band, holding together in a black wedge, drove forward resolutely in the direction of the forest. Straight up the slope they charged toward the watchers. Now they were drawing near, and it seemed certain that they would escape. They had already hewn down 3 riders that barred their way. "We've watched too long," said Mary. "There's Ugluk. I don't want to meet him again." The hobbits turned and fled deep into the shadows of the wood. So it was that they did not see the last stand, when Ugluk was overtaken and brought to bay at the very edge of Fangorn. There he was slain at last by Eomer, 3rd Marshal of the Mark, who dismounted and fought him sword to sword. And over the wide fields, the keen-eyed runters. Let me start over. And over the wide fields, the keen-eyed riders hunted down the few orcs that had escaped and still had strength to fly.
There we go.
Then, when they had lain their fallen comrades in a mound and had sung their praises, the riders made a great fire and scattered the ashes of their enemies. So ended the raid, and no news of it ever came back, either to Mordor or to Isengard. But the smoke of the burning rose high to heaven and was seen by many watchful eyes. Chapter 4. Treebeard.
Woot!
Meanwhile, the hobbits went with as much speed as the dark and tangled forest allowed, following the line of the running stream westward and up towards the slopes of the mountains, deeper and deeper into Fangorn. Slowly their fear of the orcs died away, and their pace slackened. A queer, stifling feeling came over them, as if the air were too thin or too scanty for breathing. At last, Mary halted.
Because it's full of trees.
Yes, but the trees don't want to give them any oxygen.
So are the trees withholding? Are the trees holding their breath to withhold oxygen from the 2-legged ones? They're all of them together are like, oh,
Yeah, that's Fangorn Forest, man. It's old as balls. That is, by the way, the tagline for this episode. I called it "This forest is old," and the description is ... old as balls.
old as balls.
At last Merry halted. "We can't go on like this," he panted. "I want some air." "Let's have a drink at any rate," said Pippin. "I'm parched." He clambered onto a great tree root that wound down into the stream, and stooping drew up some water in his cupped hands. It was clear and cold, and he took many draughts. Merry followed him. The water refreshed them and seemed to cheer their hearts. For a while they sat together on the brink of the stream, dabbling their sore feet and legs, and peering round at the trees that stood silently about them, rank upon rank, until they faded away into grey twilight in every direction. "I suppose you haven't lost us already?" said Pippin, leaning back against a great tree trunk. "We can at least follow the course of this stream, the Entwash or whatever you call it, and get out again the way we came."
The accents are back.
Yeah, they just appeared. I don't know. It's whatever.
We can do this.
"We could if our legs would do it," said Merry, "and if we could breathe properly." "Yes, it is all very dim and stuffy in here," said Pippin. "It reminds me somehow of the old room in the great place of the Tooks away back in the Smeals at Tuckborough. A huge place where the furniture has never been moved or changed for generations. They say the old Took lived in it year after year. Well, he in the room...
Smiles. I didn't know it was Smeals. I thought it was Smiles.
I don't know.
Smeals it is. Cool.
Could be Smiles. I really don't know.
Okay.
Well, he and the room got older and shabbier together, and it has never changed since he died a century ago. And old Gerontius was my great-great-grandfather. That puts it back a bit. But that has nothing to the old feeling of this wood. Look at all these weeping, trailing beards and whiskers of lichen. And most of the trees seem to be half covered with ragged dry leaves that have never fallen. Untidy. I can't imagine what spring would look like here if it ever comes. Still less a spring cleaning. But the sun at any rate must peep in sometimes, said Merry. It does not look or feel at all like Bilbo's description of Mirkwood. That was all dark and black, and the home of dark black things. This is just dim and frightfully tree-ish. You can't imagine animals living here at all, or staying for long. No, nor hobbits, said Pippin. And I don't like the thought of trying to get through it either. Nothing to eat for 100 miles, I should guess. How are our supplies? Slow, said Merry. We ran off with nothing but a couple of spare packets of lembas and left everything else behind. They looked at what remained of the elven cakes. Broken fragments for about 5 meager days, that was all. And not a wrap or a blanket, said Merry. It'll be cold tonight, whichever way we go. Well, we'd better decide on the way now, said Pippin. The morning must be getting on. Just then they became aware of a yellow light that had appeared some way further on into the wood. Shafts of sunlight seemed suddenly to have pierced the forest roof. Hello, said Merry. The sun must have run into a cloud while we've been under these trees, and now she has run out again, or else she's climbed high enough to look down through some opening. 'Tisn't far. Let's go and investigate. They found it was further than they thought. The ground was rising steeply still, and it was becoming increasingly stony. The light grew broader as they went on, and soon they saw that there was a rock wall before them, the side of a hill, or the abrupt end of some long route thrust out by the distant mountains. No trees grew on it, and the sun was falling full on its stony face. The twigs of the trees at its foot were stretched out stiff and still, as if reaching out to the warmth. Where all had looked so shabby and grey before, the wood now gleamed with rich browns, and with the smooth black greys of bark like polished leather. The boles of the trees glowed with a soft green like young grass. Early spring, or a fleeting vision of it, was about them. In the face of the stony wall there was something like a stair, natural perhaps, and made by the weathering and splitting of the rock, for it was rough and uneven. High up, almost level with the tops of forest trees, there was a shelf under a cliff. Nothing grew there but a few grasses and weeds at its edge, and one old stump of a tree with two bent branches left. It looked almost like the figure of some gnarled old man standing there, blinking in the morning light. "Up we go," said Mary joyfully. "Now for a breath of air and a sight of the land." They climbed and scrambled up the rock. If the stair had been made, it was for bigger feet and longer legs than theirs. They were too eager to be surprised at the remarkable way in which the cuts and sores of their captivity had healed and their vigor had returned. They came at length to the edge of the shelf, almost at the feet of the old stump. Then they sprang up and turned round with their backs to the hill, breathing deep and looking out eastward. They saw that they had only come some 3 or 4 miles into the forest. The heads of the trees marched down the slopes towards the plain. There, near the fringe of the forest, tall spires of curling black smoke went up, wavering and floating towards them. "The wind's changing," said Mary. "It's turned east again. It feels cool up here." "Yes," said Pippin. "I'm afraid this is only a passing gleam, and it will all go grey again. What a pity! This shaggy old forest looked so different in the sunlight. I almost felt I liked the place." "Almost felt you liked the forest? That's good. That's uncommonly kind of you," said a strange voice.
Dun dun dun!
"Turn round and let me have a look at your faces. I almost feel that I dislike you both, but do not let us be hasty. Turn around." A large, knob-knuckled hand was laid on each of their shoulders, and they were twisted round, gently but irresistibly. Then 2 great arms lifted them up. They found they were looking at a most extraordinary face. It belonged to a large, man-like, almost troll-like figure, at least 14 foot high, very sturdy, with a tall head and hardly any neck. Whether it was clad in stuff like green and gray bark, or whether that was its hide, was difficult to say. At any rate, the arms, at a short distance from the trunk, were not wrinkled, but covered with a brown, smooth skin. The large feet had 7 toes each. The lower part of the long face was covered with a sweeping gray beard, bushy, almost twiggy at the roots, thin and mossy at the ends. But at the moment the hobbits noted little but the eyes. These deep eyes were now surveying them, slow and solemn, but very penetrating. They were brown, shot with a green light. Often afterwards Pippin tried to describe his first impression of them. "One felt as if there was an enormous well behind them. Wow, I'm fucking up this accent. Anyway, behind them. Filled up with ages of memory and long, slow, steady thinking. But their surface was sparkling with the present, like sun shimmering on the outer leaves of a vast tree, or on the ripples of a very deep lake. I don't know, but it felt as if something that grew in the ground, asleep, you might say, or just feeling itself as something that between root tip and leaf tip, between earth and sky, had suddenly waked up and was considering you with the same slow care that it had given to its own inside affairs for endless years." "Hum, hum," murmured the voice, a deep voice, like a very deep woodwind instrument. "Very odd indeed. Do not be hasty, that is my motto. But if I had seen you before I heard your voices, I liked them. Nice little voices. They reminded me of something I cannot remember.
Headcanon!
If I had seen you before I heard you, I should have just trodden on you, taking you for little orcs, and found out my mistake afterwards. Very odd you are, indeed. Root and twig, very odd." Pippin, though still amazed, no longer felt afraid. Under those eyes he felt a curious suspense, but not fear. "Please," he said, "who are you? And what are you?" A queer look came into the old eyes, a kind of wariness. The deep wells were covered over. I feel like I need to sneeze, but I can't. Ah, worst.
No.
The deep
Hateful.
wells were covered over. Vroom now, answered the voice. Well, I am an Ent. Well, that's what they call me. Yes, Ent is the word. The Ent I am, you might say, in your manner of speaking. Fangorn is my name, according to some. Treebeard, others make it. Treebeard will do. An Ent? Said Mary. What's that? But what do you call yourself? What's your real name? Oh, now, replied Treebeard. Oh, now that would be telling. Not so hasty, and I am doing the asking. You are in my country. What are you, I wonder? I cannot place you. You do not seem to come in the old lists that I learned when I was young. That was a long, long time ago, silly. And they may have made new lists. Let me see.
Oh,
Let me see. What?
I got to sneeze for you.
So kind.
Welcome.
Let me see. Let me see. How did it go? Learn now. This is short, so I'm just going to read it. Learn now the lore of living creatures. First name the four, the free peoples. Eldest of all, the elf children. Dwarf the delver, dark are his houses. Ent the earthborn, old as mountains. Man the mortal, master of horses. Beaver the builder, Buck the leaper, Bear bee hunter, Boar the fighter. Huh. I wonder if the guy
Yes.
named Boar the fighter.
I think so. Every time I read that line, I am absolutely certain that Brian Jakes, excuse me, I lost my screen, that Brian Jakes was a Tolkien head and stole that 3-word to create an entire character and mythology in his own world. I don't have confirmation from him, but yeah, every time I read it, I do a little for the fighter. Yeah,
Boar the fighter.
For the fighter. Bella of Brockhall's father. Wait, wasn't that
Hound hungry, yes.
Yeah.
Hare is fearful. Eagle in airy, ox in pasture, hot horn crowned. Hawk is swiftest, swan the whitest, serpent coldest. How did it go? Room-tum, room-tum, room-de-tum-tum. It was a long list. But anyway, you do not seem to fit in anywhere. We always seem to have got left out of the old lists and the old stories, said Mary. Yet we've been about for quite a long time. We're hobbits. Why not make a new line? Said Pippin. Half-grown hobbits, the hole dwellers. Put us in amongst the four next to man, the big people, and you've got it. Not bad, not bad, said Treebeard. That would do. So you live in holes, eh? It sounds very right and proper. Who calls you hobbits, though? That does not sound elvish to me. Elves made all the old words. They began it. Nobody else calls us hobbits. We call ourselves that, said Pippin. Come now. Not so hasty. You call yourselves hobbits? But you should not go telling just anybody. You'll be letting out your own right names if you're not careful. We aren't careful about that, said Mary. As a matter of fact, I'm a Brandybuck, Marriadoc Brandybuck, though most people just call me Mary. And I'm a Took, Peregrine Took, but I'm generally called Pippin, or even Pip. But you are hasty folk, I see, said Treebeard. I am honored by your confidence, but you should not be too free all at once. There are Ents and Ents, you know, or there are Ents and things that look like Ents but ain't, as you might say. For I am not going to tell you my name, not yet, at any rate. A queer, half-knowing, half-humorous look came with a green flicker into his eyes. For one thing, it would take a long while. My name is growing all the time, and I've lived a very long, long time. So my name is like a story. Real names tell you the story of the things they belong to in my language, in the old Entish, as you might say. It is a lovely language, but it takes a very long time to say anything in it, because we do not say anything in it, unless it is worth taking a long time to say, and to listen to.
Johann Gambleputty, Devon Ausfern, Spendeslit, Kraskren, Von Fried, Dingerding, Von Sternbone, Nakathresel, Applebanger. I don't know the whole thing.
I don't either.
Someday.
Of Ulm.
Of Ulm.
Oof. One sec, I gotta move my computer because where I'm sitting is weird. Okay. All right.
Okay, smoky.
Okay, smoky. So, let's see. But now, the eyes became very bright and present, seeming to grow smaller and almost sharp. Excuse me. What is going on? And what are you doing in it all? I can see and hear and smell and feel a great deal from this la 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 rumba Commander Lindor Buru. Excuse me, that is a part of my name for it. I do not know what the word is in the outside languages. You know, the thing we were on, where I stand and look out on fine mornings, think about the sun and the grass beyond the wood, and the horses and the clouds, and the unfolding of the world. What is going on? What is Gandalf up to? And these... He made a deep rumbling noise, like a discord on a great organ. These orcs, and young Saruman down at Isengard. I like news, but not too quick now. I like that he calls him young Saruman.
Yeah, I love that. And young Gandalf.
There's quite a lot going on, said Mary, and even if we tried to be quick, it would take a great long time to tell. But you told us not to be hasty. Ought we to tell you anything so soon? Would you think it rude if we asked what you are going to do with us and which side you are on? And did you know Gandalf? Yes, I do know him. The only wizard that really cares about trees, said Treebeard. Do you know him? Yes, said Pippin sadly. We did. He was a great friend, and he was our guide. Then I can answer your other questions, said Treebeard. I'm not going to do anything with you. Not if you mean by that do something to you without your leave. We might do some things together. Is he hitting on them? I feel like he's kind of hitting on them. I'm not going to do anything to you without your leave, but we could do some things together if you catch my drift.
Yeah, if anybody was saying that outside of Middle-earth, then yes. But no one ever has sex in Middle-earth. Which is sad, because they're all really hot.
I have no response for that.
It's a safe place for the aces. It's very nice.
I don't know about sides. I go my own way. But your way may go along with mine for a while. But you speak of Master Gandalf as if he was in a story that had come to an end. Yes, we do, said Pippin sadly. The story seems to be going on, but I am afraid Gandalf has fallen out of it. Oh, come now, said Treebeard. Well. He paused, looking long at the hobbits. Well, I do not know what to say. Come now. If you'd like to hear more, said Mary, we will tell you, but it will take some time. Wouldn't you like to put us down? Couldn't we sit here together in the sun while it lasts? You must be getting tired of holding us up. Tired? No, I am not tired. I do not easily get tired, and I do not sit down. I'm not very bendable. But there, the sun is going in. Let us leave this. What did you say you call it? Hell, suggested Pippin. Shelf? Step? Suggested Mary. Treebeard repeated the words thoughtfully. Hill. Yes, that was it. But it is a hasty word for a thing that has stood here ever since this part of the world was shaped. Never mind. Let us leave it and go. Where shall we go? Asked Mary. To my home, or one of my homes, answered Treebeard. Is it far? I do not know. You might call it far, perhaps. But what does that matter? Well, you see, we've lost all our belongings, said Mary. We've only a little food. Oh, you need not trouble about that, said Treebeard. I can give you a drink that will keep you green and growing for a long, long while. And if we decide to part company, I can set you down outside my country at any point you choose. Let us go. And that's a good stopping point for the night, because Treebeard talks a lot, so there's not going to be another stopping point anytime soon.
Right? Dear God, he does. We're going to have a song or two to skip, I believe.
Probably.
Anyway, we got a couple of ships and an anvil.
I like it.
It's getting there. This is going to be tricksy. I'm going to need to hide some stuff in shadow.
What's under there?
Oh, in this area, there's going to be an airplane.
Ah, okay.
The ships and an airplane are sticking out of this hole, and then we're going to have some chains, big ones, going... I don't know if it's from the ship or across the ship or under the ship. It could be under the ship. Across here. So the chains will take up this space, and then there's a truck, and then there's a crane, and then there's a packing crate?
Yeah.
And then I get to work on the character. I haven't really given any thought to, like, what color he should be or what.
I don't know.
He looks dark to me. I should give him some fancies on his clothing. But not too many, because, you know, he has work.
It could be a dark red. Do like a rusty color. Or like mottled gray and red.
Could do that. I think with the dwarfs, though, with this column, which contains ruthenium and a couple others, if I start him with an unnatural skin color, I want to do them all with unnatural skin colors. That's been the way I've been organizing the columns, even the ones that don't have a lot of other things in common with their cohorts. Like, nitrogen started out with a human skin color, so everything in that column, all the nictogens have that. And fluorine started out bright yellow, so all of the fluorine column has strange and fey colors. There's only going to be 4 dwarfs, unless you want to stretch the definition to include like things that I organize in my head as leprechauns and hobbits and gnomes. There's a column where they've all got the pointy hat. But anyway.
Anyway, I am very
Sleep.
interested to see what you do, and now I'm sleepy.
Okay, thank you for reading. That was awesome.
'Twas my pleasure. I will see you on Sunday.
Excellent. Cuidado.
Llamas.